Welcome to this week's class on Chassidus. Since we are getting ready for the holiday of Shavuot, we're going to learn a beautiful Chassidic discourse from the Rebbe that he said in the year Tafshin Chaf Tes, 51 years ago, and it was certified and edited by the Rebbe in the year Tafshin Nun, 30 years ago. It's based on the verse on the Torah where it says, בחודש השלישי, in the third month, let's say Bnei Yisrael Meretz Mitzrayim, from when the Jewish people left Egypt. We know the Jewish people left in the month of Nisan. Then there's the month of Iyar. So the third month would be the month of Sivan. So the verse says, by Yom Hazeh, on this day, they came Midbar Sinai to Mount Sinai. So the question is, what day did they come? By Yom Hazeh, it doesn't say what day. So we all know the Torah is very ambiguous, but it's not because it's trying to hide things, but because it wants us to learn. And we know there's different ways you can learn things in the Torah. One of them is called a Gzeira Shava, where if you have in one verse, like in this case, where we don't know what day it is, but in another verse, where it specifies a day, and this verse and the other verse have the same word, a buzzword, so you connect the two. So for example, the Gemara says, since it says Hazeh in this verse, and another verse in the Torah, it says, Chodesh Hazeh, Lachem Rosh Chodesh. Over there, it's referring to Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, we know that this month, when we're referring to Hayom Hazeh, is referring to Rosh Chodesh. That's what the Talmud tells us. Comes along the Gemara, and the Gemara says, why are you learning it out? From the Gzeira Shava using the word Hazeh, there's another word in this verse. When they came to Midbar Sinai, where'd they come to Midbar? Midbar is also a buzzword. And in Midbar, we know in another verse it says it's referring to Rosh Chodesh, so we can also know it's Rosh Chodesh based on the buzzword of Midbar. So, Rebbe asked the question, seemingly, what's Taisa's question? Hayom Hazeh, this day. My concern is right now what day. So they use right away this verse, which is close to Hayom, to tell you what day it was. Why use a word later? Also later speaking about the desert, here speaking about the day. Obviously, if the Tosfos has the question, it has a real reason, a good reason why it wants to use that word. And what's the reason? So we're going to explore, and we will hopefully come up with a beautiful idea based on Kabbalah. What's the reason why Tosfos wants to use the buzzword of Midbar versus the word Hazeh? So we know what day they come. They came Rosh Chodesh. So now the Rebbe is going to explain what's the whole idea. Why is it important to know they came in Rosh Chodesh? Why Hayom Hazeh? And why does Tosfos want to use the word from Midbar? So Rebbe says we're going to, in order to understand this, first we're going to try to understand basically what's the whole idea of Matan Torah. So we know that Matan Torah, what happened was three things happened. There was a Nisan HaTorah, Hashem gave the Torah. There was Kabbalah HaTorah, we received the Torah, and then there's the Torah itself. And in the verse where it speaks about Hashem coming down on Mount Sinai, so it says, "Vayidaber Elokim es kol hadvarim ha'ela leimer." Hashem said all these words, leimer. What does leimer mean? So the commentaries tell us that leimer means that Hashem is imbuing, empowering, that any time and any place in any future generations, when we sit down to learn Torah, Hashem is saying it with us. Based on the verse, Tan l'shoni mersecha. So what happened at Matan Torah was not only did we receive the Torah, but we also received the gift that any time and any place that we sit down to learn Torah, we are learning Torah with Hashem, which is very, very powerful. Now, what's the question? What's the connection between Matan Torah and Shavuos? Matan Torah received the Torah. Very nice. Shavuos is one of the three holidays of the year, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. What's the connection between Shavuos and Matan Torah? So the Rebbe explains that we know that what's Shavuos? Shavuos is the holiday that we were commanded by God to count. Mimachros HaPesach, from the second day of Pesach, we count Sfiras Omer. We count 49 days. What's the idea of counting 49 days? To get ready for Shavuos. To get ready to bring the Korban Omer. And we count every single day. And every single day we have to transform ourselves. We know every single day of the first week represents the Midah of Chesed. We go through Chesed, Gvur, Tiferet, all the 7 Midot. The second week, all the meat of the Gvura, and so on and so forth. What happens on the 50th day? So the Torah says you should count 7 weeks, but then it says Tisbru Chamishim Yom. We don't count the 50th day. So the 50th day is a gift. After we did our avodah for 7 weeks and we transformed ourselves, then we get the gift of Chamishim Yom. What's Chamishim Yom? So it's brought down in Kabbalah and it says that's the 50th gate of Bina. What's the 50th gate of Bina in terminology that we can relate to? That's the gift of the sphere of Keter. What's the whole idea of sphere of Keter? Because we're coming to Matan Torah, and we're getting the gift of the Torah, and we're getting the gift that we're going to learn. Every time we learn Torah, we're going to connect to Hashem. How can we connect to Hashem when we learn Torah? We have to be humble. Because if you're arrogant, you're not going to be able to connect to Hashem. As the Talmud says, Ein ani b'hu yichayim lador. So how do we experience the humility? By doing the work for the 7 weeks, and we get Keter. Keter has in it the ingredients that allows us to experience true humility. And based on this, the Rebbe says that that's why the verse says that it was in the third month we came to Midbar Sinai. Why Rosh Chodesh? Why do we specifically have to come Rosh Chodesh? Because Rosh Chodesh, we know that's when the Levana is born, the Moedel HaLevana. And we know, what does it mean the moon is born? It's a little dot. What's a little dot? A little dot resembles humility. So because it resembles humility and we came on that day, that's the day that that's appropriate to work on our humility so that we'll be able to receive the Torah from Hashem, and not only receive the Torah from Hashem, we'll receive it with humility. So therefore, for generations, till today, until Mashiach comes, every time we learn Torah, we will learn in humility and we'll be able to connect to Hashem. So that's the connection of what? Of Matan Torah is to receive the Torah then, but even today when we learn Torah, we're connecting to Hashem. That's the connection with Shavuos, because Shavuos gives us the gift of Keter, and that's why we came to Rosh Chodesh, to have the humility, and through Keter we'll be able to have the humility to connect to Hashem in a very beautiful way. So that's one reason why we came on Rosh Chodesh. Humility. There's another reason why we came Rosh Chodesh, because we know it says, that we mentioned already before, that when we left Egypt, we had to go through transforming ourselves. And we went through all this, we have to go through 7 weeks. So the first week was all full of chesed. The second week, gvura. The third week, tiferet. Now when it came to the 7th week, Malchut. So within the first 3 days, we do chesed, gvura, tiferet of Malchut. And we all know that the main spheres is chesed, gvura, tiferet. The main emotional spheres is chesed, gvura, tiferet. So once we accomplished the full 6 weeks, and we accomplished already the 7 weeks, the first 3 days, we are totally a complete human being. So on Rosh Chodesh, we finished counting the 3rd day of the 7th week, so now we're complete and we are ready to receive the Torah. So the Rebbe asks a simple question. On one hand, what are we saying? That we came here and we're humble, moiled halavana. Nevertheless, we're saying what? That we're complete. So are we complete or are we humble? And the answer is that we need both. We need to be complete. We need to be transformed. But after all the transformation, we have to be humbled. So it's a double gift that we need. We need to be transformed, we need to be complete, but with the completion, we have to have a sense of humility. Then the Rebbe goes on to explain the second half of the verse that says that we came where? By Midbar Sinai. Why is the Torah telling us? Obviously, we need to know where they came. But by Midbar Sinai, so spiritually, what is Midbar? Midbar represents the whole idea of Dibur. Dibur means speech. What are you speaking? So Dibur, Midbar is 2 words. Mem, Dibur. Mem is one of the letters of the word Hamantiv. Every one of the letters refers to the way we're humbled. So the Dibur, our speech, is humbled. So Midbar is, our speech is humbled. It means whatever we're saying the words of Hashem. I don't share my own words. I don't share my own thoughts. I share what Hashem has to say. That's Midbar. You're only sharing what Hashem has to say. What do you mean I'm sharing what I have to say? There's no me. It's Midbar. We have to be totally humbled. Like we find, for example, in the Midbar, a Midbar is a place nothing grew. What does it mean nothing grew? In a place where things grow, what is growth? I think, and I have an idea, and I feel, that's growth. What is Midbar? Nothing grows. There's no intellect, there's no my opinion, and I think, and there's no emotions, and I feel. Nothing grows. The only thing that grows is Midbar, the Dibber of Hashem. The only thing that we're sharing is what Hashem has to say. And then we have the avodah of Sinai, because what's the whole idea of Sinai? Because the Talmud says that the reason why it's called Sinai, because it was a Sinai for the Umas Ha'olam, people that wanted to accept the Torah, which means the idea of breaking all the klipot and all the Sichra Achra. So the avodah of Midbar Sinai is where you're totally humbled. The only thing you're sharing is what Hashem has to say, and all the klipot and the Sitra Achra are totally obliterated and destroyed. So the Rebbe asks now a question. What did we just say? The first part, Yoim Hazeh, that on one hand, we are totally transformed. We went through 7 weeks, 6 weeks, and then 3 days. And on the other hand, we're humbled. So are we humbled? Are we complete? So the Rebbe explains powerfully, and he says as follows. What is the whole idea of humility? So what we said, how do we know humility from? We said it's from the Levana, because we count to the moon. Our calendar is based on the moon. What is the whole idea of a Levana? So Levana means, that doesn't mean the Levana doesn't exist. When you say the first day of the month, it means a tiny dot of the moon. Does it exist or does? Sure, it exists. But what happens is it's called Moiled HaLevana. Moiled means it was born. What means it was born? It's something, but it recognizes it came from somewhere else. It's only a creation. So true humility is, no, you're something. You were born. You were created. You have tremendous qualities, but you recognize where your qualities came from. True humility is, you're a somebody. You have tremendous talents, tremendous gifts, intellect, emotions, understanding, ideas, all levels of transformation. But you realize, where did you get all these gifts from? You got them from Hashem. And that's really what humility is. Humility is when you have talent, but you know where it came from. And that's why the verse says, Yoim Hazeh. What does Yoim mean? Yoim means day. What does day mean? Day means light, when it's light outside. What does light mean? When there's love. In Kabbalah it says that Yichud Ilah, the highest level of a union, the highest level of a relationship is when it's light, when it's bright, when it's full of love. That's real union. On the contrary, when it's dark, when it's full of gvura, when it's the opposite of love, when it's yira, that's not yichud ilah, that's yichud tetah. There's a relationship, yichud tetah, a low level, fear, darkness. That's something we want. We want to have the highest level relationship. What's the highest level? When it's full of light, when it's full of love. That's the highest level of relationship. So we want to have the highest level. We want you to have light, full of love, full of success. However, all that you have to realize is coming from who? From Hashem. And that's the power of Rosh Chodesh. The power of Rosh Chodesh is, there's a birth, but it comes from somewhere. We have tremendous gifts, but we get it from somewhere. And based on this, the Rebbe explains, this is why Tosfos wanted we should learn it out from Midbar. Why? Because Yoim Hazeh is telling you, Yoim, your day, you're light, you're bright, you're full of great things. But we have to be humble, know where it came from. Midbar is a higher level of humility. Midbar means, by everything I'm saying, I have nothing to say. I'm just sharing what Hashem wants. Sinai, all the klipot sichra atrach are destroyed. So Tosfos says, if you're coming to receive the Torah, so you need humility to receive the Torah. So why shouldn't you learn the Gzera Shalom from Midbar? Because Midbar is a stronger humility. It's referring to just saying the Dibur of Hashem. So now we understand why Tosfos wanted us to learn from Midbar, from that word of Midbar. Why? Because that's a higher level of humility. But nevertheless, we don't learn it from there. Why? Because the truth is, there's a certain power in having gifts, being a human being, and nevertheless having humility and transforming yourself. Why is that? How is that? So the Rebbe brings the famous Maamar Chazal, where it says, in reference to Shavuot, and it says like this: when the Jewish people went ahead and they said Nasa before Nishma, so then the angels came along and they made every one of the Jewish people 2 crowns and put it on their head, one for Nasa and one for Nishma. So the Rebbe asks a simple question. 1 second. The first part of the Maamar Chazal says, The reason why they got the crowns was because they said Nasa before Nishma. So why are they getting the crowns based on the first half? Because they said Nasa before Nishma. The second half says, why are they getting the crowns? One was for Nasa, one was for Nishma. Why did they get the crowns? Because one was before the other, or because they said both? So the Rebbe Marash explains, let's try to understand what does this mean they said Nasa, we're going to do, and what does it mean Nishma, we're going to hear. And Rebbe Marash explains that Nasa means Kabbalah's El Malchut Shemayim. Kabbalah's El Malchut Shemayim means I'm accepting Hashem. Nasa means I'm accepting Hashem. Not accepting this rule, that I'm accepting Hashem. And obviously if I accept Hashem, I accept everything. What does Nishma mean? Nishma means I'm accepting to do all the mitzvot. Kabbalah all mitzvot. I'm accepting to do all the mitzvot. So, and for example, he says, we know that when you say Shema, so there's three chapters to Shema. But the first two is V'hafta, and the second one is V'hayim Shemoya. What does V'hafta mean? Also, Kabbalah Sol Malchut Shemayim. I'm accepting Hashem. V'hayim Shemoya, I'm accepting the mitzvahs. Or, for example, another way to describe the difference between the first parsha in Shema and the second parsha in Shema. The first parsha in Shema is Ratzu, I want to cleave to Hashem, Mesiras Nefesh. The second one, V'hayim Shemoya, is Shuv, I'm bringing it down to reality. Now, we know that what do you have to say first? First you have to say Shema, V'hafta, then V'hayim Shemoya. Why? Because you can't go to accepting mitzvah without accepting Hashem. So therefore, the Bnei Yisrael, they said Nasa v'Nishma means the same idea. They did the Nasa first, they did Kabbalah Sol Malchut Shemayim first, and then they went over to the idea of Nishma, of accepting the mitzvot. Now, why did they have to have Nasa before Nishma? Why Nasa before Nishma? So Rebbe explains, because they received as a gift 2 crowns, and what is a crown? A crown is makiv. It's something which you cannot internalize. It's very, very powerful. So in order to draw down that powerful energy of makiv, you had to have nasa before nishma, which means that when you're saying nishma, even though you're accepting specific mitzvot, but you're doing it as an introduction, and the baseline is Kabbalah Sol Malchut Shemayim. So even when I'm accepting the mitzvot of Kabbalah El Mitzvahs, I'm accepting it after I did what I did of Kabbalah El Malchut Shemayim. And that's why you have to have 2 crowns. Very simple, because in the first nasa, which means I want to have Ratzu, I want to have a state of ecstasy, Kabbalah Sol Malchut Shemayim, that's when Memale, we go up into Sivan, we go into the crown. On the other hand, when we're doing Kabbalah Sol Mitzvahs, that's when we're drawing down Keter, Makiv, down into this world. And so now the Rebbe explains, so even though you're drawing it down to this world, so why is it important that the Nasa should be first? And the Rebbe said, because Keter is a very, very high level, and it's a high level which is totally not connected to any of the Sfirot, so therefore you have to have the Nasa first. The Rebbe explains as follows. The Rebbe says, for example, this idea of Keter. What's Keter mean? It's totally disconnected. Totally not connected to reality. For example, we know in Keter, there's 2 levels. There's Atik, the higher level, and there's Arich, the lower level. Atik is, in practical terms, called Tainug, a very, very deep pleasure. Arich is what? The Ratzain. In Ratzain, so let's say you want to do something. So it's not a logical thing. It's not a feel thing. Ratzain, I want to do something. But what do you want to do? So you say you want to do something specific. Sometimes you have a Ratzain, I just want. What do you want? I don't know what I want. So that's Ratzain where it's not connected to reality. A temper tantrum. I want. What? I want something. That's not reality. But then you have a Ratzain which is connected to reality. So Ratzain has both, where it's disconnected and connected. Tainug and the real level of Keter is it's way out there. It's not connected to reality. When Bnei Yisrael, what did they get? They got 2 crowns. They got beyond reality. Why? Because even though the first one, Nasa, we're willing to accept El Malchut Shemayim for sure, it makes sense why they got the crown. But when they said Kabbalah Sol Mitzvahs, why did they get the crown? And the answer is because they got it, they said Kabbalah Sol Mitzvahs as an introduction after they said Kabbalah Sol Malchut Shemayim. So even though they were accepting the mitzvahs, but because they accepted first Hashem, so when they accepted the mitzvah, it's part of them, it's part of the process of accepting Hashem. And therefore they got the two crowns, which is basically totally makif, which is above and way beyond connected to any type of reality, because it came as an introduction from the whole idea of Nasa. Now, but then the Rebbe says, 1 second, if that's the case, so what's the difference between Nasa and Nishma? If it's both bittul, accepting, so what's the technical difference between accepting Hashem and accepting the mitzvot? And especially what we're saying is that accepting the mitzvahs came after you accepted Hashem. So the Rebbe explains as follows, that there's something which is called Ratzu, when you have a yearning of ecstasy. So there's different types of yearnings of ecstasy. You want to cleave to Hashem. Why do you want to cleave to Hashem? Because you want to cleave to Hashem. So what's cleaving? You're cleaving. It's all about you. Or you can say, no. Really, I want to cleave to Hashem. But I know Hashem wants me down here. But on the other hand, I need Hashem. I need energy. I need godly light. So I want to go up to cleave to Hashem so that I can get the light to bring it down to this world. So there's a big difference. If it's just Ratzu, you want to cleave to Hashem, that's not about Hashem. It's you. You have this interest of having a godly or a spiritual experience. But if you want to do what Hashem wants, you want to be down here living in a physical world, doing physical mitzvot, but on the other hand, you want to have spiritual energy, so you're going up to get some spiritual energy to bring it down to reality. So it's a Ratzu. The whole purpose of the Ratzu is for the Shuv. So back to our case. When they said Nasa, you can say, Nasa, Hashem, I accept you. No. That's not what they said. Nasa, Hashem, I accept you. I want to be with you. I'm ready to do anything. But I want to do anything with you so that I can be Nishma. I can take that powerful energy and bring it down to reality. And then the Nishma I'm doing based on the power of that original Nasa. Which what happens then is you're actually going much deeper into what Hashem wants. As the Rebbe uses the term, you're actually going into the idea of what does Hashem want? Does Hashem want me to leave this world, or does Hashem want me to live in this world? And the answer is, we all know that Ratzu HaKadosh Baruch Hu liyos lo yizbarech dir b'tachtonim. Hashem wanted what? We should make a dwelling place down here. What does that mean? We should draw down the infinite light of Hashem in this world. Now, when a person is following what Hashem wants, meaning to say is, Hashem had a dream. Hashem is this godly, infinite, spiritual human being. He created a finite world. He put us here, and He wants us to bring godliness into this world. How do we bring godliness into the world? So we have to first and foremost, we have to accept we're doing whatever Hashem wants. So Kabbalah Sol Malchut Shemayim means I am doing what Hashem wants. That's the first. So it's not about me. Yes, I'm me, and I have all my gifts that God gave me, but everything He gave me, it comes from Him, and I want to do what He wants. Kabbalah Sol Malchut Shemayim. So therefore, I want to connect to this infinite light. But I know that the goal is not to take a flight up and stay there. The goal is I want to go and get some spiritual energy, but right afterwards, I want to bring it back down to this world. Why? Because I want to fulfill God's dream of liyos lo yizbarech b'tachtonim. Now, who had that dream? Atzmos. Hashem Himself had that vision and that dream to make a dira, to make a dwelling place b'tachtonim. So, when Bnei Yisrael said Nasa, that means Kabbalah Sol Malchut, I'm willing to do whatever Hashem wants. And when they said Nishma, means I'm willing to take all that powerful ecstasy that I have and bring it down into B'dir B'tachtonim, down to this world. What does that require from us? That requires tremendous humility, because it's not about me. It's not about what I want. I am willing just to follow protocol. Hashem wants Dir B'tachtonim, great. Nasa, I'm willing to accept you as Hashem. And then I'm willing to do all the mitzvot and bring down the light down to this world. But when I'm drawing down the light into this world, what type of light am I drawing down? Because this mitzvah makes sense, or I appreciate this mitzvah? No. Because I want to connect to the infinite Hashem. I want to connect not to external and light, and it feels good, and it feels great, and it makes sense. No. I want to connect to the essence of Hashem. That's what I want to connect to. Atzmos. And because I want to connect to Atzmos, Nasa, I'm ready to do anything. I'm ready to accept you as Hashem. And now I want to bring it down to this world. And that's really what happened on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, we came to the mountain, and we came and we said, yes, Hayoim, it's light, and it's full of love, and it's all great. However, it's all about Hashem. It's not about me. Or like Midbar, I want to speak whatever Hashem has to want me to speak. And all the klipot totally get eradicated. And up to the point that we can actually draw down Hashem, and therefore, on Rosh Chodesh, we can even reach a level of what? A bittul, not only bittul hayesh, but bittul metzias. We can totally become nullified. And based on this, the Rebbe explains a deeper idea of why the verse says, Bayoim hazeh, on this day. Because we know the word zeh, this, the only one that you can say this is only in Hashem. Because the only one that really exists, for example, zeh, keli v'amveyu. What do we say? Zeh, this. What this? Referring to Hashem is our God, and therefore I'm going to beautify him. Why? Because the only one that really exists, Maloi Chala Aretz Kavod, who's the only one that exists? Who is the only one that you can say Zeh? Only on Hashem. Why? Because not only on Hashem, but on external, on Atzmos, the essence of Hashem. Because anything that was created by something else, and anything that exists because someone else created it, you can't say Zeh on it. The only place you can say Zeh is on Hashem. So therefore, it's so beautiful. בחודש השלישי, in the 3rd month, they left Egypt. They come to Mount Sinai. Bayoim, they're full of light. They're full of love. They feel like they transform themselves. Hazeh. What does Hazeh tell you? Who's the only Zeh? Who's the only one that exists? Atzmos. The only one that exists is Hashem. And because the only one that exists is Hashem, what am I? Hashem created me. So therefore, all my tremendous talents and gift, I'm humbled. Because the only one that's really existing is Hashem. I don't even exist. And based on this, Rebbe explains why it says when they came, what does it say later on in the verse? B'midbar Sinai. What did Midbar accomplish? That totally humbled. Sinai, there was animosity to anyone that wouldn't accept Hashem. Why? Because the fact that Hashem chose us, and the fact that people didn't want to accept Hashem, Hashem was willing to give the Torah to anybody. That means where did it come? When Hashem was willing to give the Torah to anybody, it wasn't because someone was better or worse. Hashem had anyone. So Hashem was willing to give the Torah to anybody because he was giving it from a place where there was no difference between one person and the other person. There was no difference. He was willing to give it to anybody. Which in Hebrew it was coming from a place of Bechira Chavshis. Hashem didn't choose one over the other for this reason, and he just gave it freedom of choice. The only place where you can have freedom of choice is only in Hashem, and only in the Atzmos of Hashem. And because it came from that level, that place, we were able to have true animosity to our own evil inclination. And because of that, we were able to transform our animal soul. How? By revealing Atzmos. Because when you reveal Atzmos, you can have opposites. What are the opposites? On one hand, I exist, and it's light, and it's love, but nevertheless, it's all Hashem. And there's a world, but the world is transformed. Now, that's what happened in Rosh Chodesh. There's a world, the world got transformed. But in order for us to receive that's the power of Rosh Chodesh. But in order for us to receive the Torah already on Shavuos, then we have to go to the higher level of humility, the level of Midbar, where basically whatever we're saying is the Devar Hashem, where everything is totally nullified. And then we were able to receive the Torah, because the Torah actually is mamash from Hashem himself. That's literally from the etzem of Hashem. And that's the power, of Matan Torah itself. Then Rebbe goes on to explain where it says, B'chodesh hashlishi. So the Rebbe is saying, this idea we spoke about of Rosh Chodesh, what's Rosh Chodesh? We have all our tremendous gifts, but nevertheless we're humble. Seemingly, why isn't that every Rosh Chodesh? Nevertheless, the verse says it's only when בחודש השלישי. Why was it only in the third month of Sivan? The Rebbe explains beautifully. The Rebbe says as follows. We all know the first month of in the Jewish calendar, when the Jewish people became a people, is the month of Nisan. And we already explained in one of the previous Kabbalah classes that when you start becoming a people, you have to start going from the bottom to the top. You don't start from the top to the bottom. So from the Sefirot, we start from the bottom. The first month is of Nisan is the month of Malchus. That's what happens in the first month, Malchus. Then as we graduate out of Malchus, the second month, the month of Iyar is actually called the month of Ziv. In Kabbalah it's called Ziv, which means it's a ray. We start to get into a ray of the emotions, which is the emotions of Yesod. So the month of Nisan is what? Is Malchus. The month of Iyar is Yesod, the way it goes into Malchus. And the third month is, we go up the middle channel, it goes into Tiferet, in beauty. Because Tiferet is where the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is totally revealed. The Shem HaEtzem is revealed. So בחודש השלישי, again, the first month is Malchus, second month Iyar is Yesod, which is only a Ziv array, and the month of Sivan is the Tiferet, which is the essence of Hashem's name. The Etzem of Hashem is revealed, and because when you have the essence of Hashem is revealed, therefore only and specifically this powerful gift of humility exists only on the third month, the month of Sivan. So the month of Sivan has the power. You can be full of light, yoim, you can be full of light, but nevertheless, and love and all the great things, but Hashem is revealed. Because Hashem is revealed, we're able to experience the greatest humility possible. And Rebbe says, by preparing ourselves in the third month, again, the month of Tiferet, where the essence of Hashem is revealed, and specifically in Rosh Chodesh Sivan, which is going to be this Sunday, by transforming our animal soul, like we mentioned before, the idea of Sinai, getting rid of all the klipot, and being humble, the level of Midbar, in the highest level, which means the level of our godly soul. And specifically, the Rebbe says, when we are because one of the biggest powerful gifts of the Jewish people was, Hashem said, look, they're all here together, they're all unified. Now I'm ready to give them the Torah. When we stood there in a unified way, it opened up Hashem's heart and melted Hashem. The biggest gift we can give to Hashem, and the way we can melt Hashem's heart, is by being unified. Because when we unified, Hashem said, we're ready to give them the Torah. Why? Because why would Hashem say we're ready to give them the Torah? Because where do we differentiate? I'm this and you're that, and I think better and worse, and so on and so forth. That's in lower levels. But when you go into the essence, where we all come from, our Shoresh and Neshama comes from the Atzmos. And in the Shoresh, we're all one. So when we behave unified, we're connecting to the Etzem of Hashem. So we're opening up the Etzem of Hashem. As we open up the Etzem of Hashem, Hashem says, here, sure, I'll give you the Torah. So every single time we are unified with one another, we literally open up the greatest channel for the greatest blessings. And we saw in Matan Torah, we received the Torah because we became unified. And through the fact that we'll be unified today, the Rebbe says, will be merit to receive the Torah. But now we receive the Torah physically. We'll receive it בשמחה, because the greatest gift you can have is not only to have the Torah, which is great, but to have the Torah in a way of simcha. We're really, really happy. Spiritual happiness, physical happiness, emotional happiness. ובפנימיות, we'll receive the Torah not only as a book on the shelf, but internally. It'll become part of who we are. Well, our lives, our families, our communities will be bright from learning Torah and connecting to Hashem, the noise in our Torah. And will not only achieve it for Shavuos and for Matan Torah, we'll achieve this for a whole year. So this discourse is a beautiful discourse because it teaches us how to get ready for Matan Torah by realizing all the tremendous qualities we have, but remembering all the qualities we have is a gift from Hashem. And because it's a gift from Hashem, we're totally humble to Hashem. And because we're humble to Hashem, we're ready to accept Hashem, we're ready to accept His mitzvot, ready to get along with everybody, and when we get along with everybody, we'll draw down the greatest blessings, we'll connect to the powerful blessings of the month of Sivan, the month of the Tiferet, the month where the Etzem of Hashem is revealed, and God willing, will touch Hashem in the most beautiful place, that Hashem will reveal himself and grant us the greatest gift of the revelation of Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily in our days. Thank you so much for joining us for our beautiful Chassidus class.